Svelte will never step out of the shadows of React. I'm not saying this as a hater of Svelte or a lover of React. The only front-end author where I worship is that of React, but by no means am I hitting on what has the potential to be the best front-end JavaScript framework. You see, Svelte has it all to be the best thing that ever happened to front-end development. However, it is plagued by some factors that has severely held it back all these years. I remember how excited I was when I started using this framework because of the potential it showed to front-end developers. However, 9 years later, it is still tiptoeing behind the giants. In today's video, we will go over 5 reasons why Svelte has not become a major player in the front-end development space. If you think that's a great idea, then absolutely smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel so you can get access to all of our videos in the future as they drop. So the first reason why Svelte has not become a major player is because Svelte is a late comer. As I stated earlier, Svelte was released a bit late compared to other JavaScript frameworks. React, the OG framework for front-end developers, was released in 2013. The now dead Angular released its first version, Angular.js, in 2014. And Vue.js was released also in 2014. The first working version of Svelte was released in 2019, 6 years after React. Developers were already drunk on the other existing frameworks, and we all know the rule in software development that if it works, then there's no need to fix it. Developers and most tech teams do not consider rewriting the applications in another language or framework, especially when what they have is working so well. Most teams do not see the benefit of using Svelte, even despite its game-changing features and overall reduction in code written. So the second reason why Svelte has not become a major player in the front-end development space is because of its relatively smaller ecosystem. Svelte has the smallest ecosystem of the 4 frameworks which I have mentioned here. This includes React, Vue, and Angular, and Svelte itself. This is because there are less developers who are committed to using Svelte, and as such, this naturally results in the framework having less people backing it. You cannot compare the third-party libraries and plugins built for the other frameworks that makes using them much more easier to what Svelte has. This is not to say that Svelte does not have its own set of tools and third-party libraries, but you cannot compare what Svelte has to what is already existing. The third reason why Svelte is still lacking behind is because of there is a lack of big tech backing. Although most frameworks are now open sourced, they started out as in-house tools used at big tech corporations, and as such, this translated to support, funding, and marketing of these frameworks to developers, something that can be done massively as big tech corporations just force these frameworks down developers' throats. React started at Facebook and Angular at Google. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said for Svelte and Vue. And it is really amazing how Vue has managed to hold its own against the former two. But Svelte has struggled to replicate what Vue did because Vue has already existed as an escape from what the big tech corporations provided, something Svelte is trying to do. I believe the case would have been much more different for Svelte if it was developed at a major tech firm, but we will never know. So the fourth reason why Svelte is still lacking behind in JavaScript front-end development is because despite the game-changing features Svelte promises to developer, it has not seen widespread adoption like most other frameworks. This is because of 2 reasons. Firstly, most jobs do not require the knowledge and use of Svelte as their products are most likely already using React or Angular or Vue. It would make no sense to start a lengthy rewrite when you can just continue building in features to your existing application. Secondly, most developers have already spent their time learning and mastering 1 or 2 of the existing frameworks. It's absolutely bonkers for them to add an extra framework to the list when it is not required by their employer or future employer. They'd rather be logged in and honing their skills in the front-end frameworks they are already familiar with. So the fifth and final reason why Svelte is still lacking behind is because there's a steep hill of inertia of established infrastructure, okay? Now let me explain what I mean. I already touched on this in the first point and in the last point, okay? But let's expand on the significant hurdle that established frameworks and their surrounding infrastructure presents to Svelte. Let's imagine a vast, intricate network of roads, bridges, and highways already built and heavily used. This represents the existing ecosystem of React, Angular, and Vue, just like as I stated earlier. The massive number of libraries, tooling, community support, and most importantly, the sheer number of applications built with them. To switch to Svelte for an existing large-scale application would necessitate a significant rewrite, a costly and time-consuming endeavor with inherent risks. The perceived benefit of Svelte, which is the smaller bundle size and potentially better performance, often do not immediately outweigh the disruption and investment required for such a large-scale shift. Even for new projects, while Svelte's advantages might be appealing, teams often default to what they know and what has a track record within their organization, okay? It's like trying to introduce a revolutionary new type of fuel when the world's entire infrastructure is built around gasoline. The new fuel might be better, but the transition requires a massive coordinated effort, something that rarely happens. I have used Svelte for side projects and I absolutely love the syntax of Svelte. The overall code reduction is unbelievable until you try it out yourself. And even when you do try it out, it still blows your mind. Reactivity is built into the framework by default, and since Svelte is a compiler, it actually optimizes and reduces the bundle size when compared to other frameworks. In another time, Svelte may replace React, but we will never know. For Svelte to truly become a major player, it is not just about having a better engine. It is about convincing a significant number of drivers, which are the developers, to abandon the well-trodden highways and invest in building a new road and learning a potentially less familiar but more efficient route, okay? There are always shadows lurking in the corners, and if you don't want to get caught behind like Svelte, make sure you subscribe to the channel to stay updated. If you want to learn how to build real-world apps with React and Svelte, and if this video makes sense to you, then absolutely smash that like button, and I will see you in the next one.